Scott Morrison ended up addressing Joe Biden's climate summit late last week without Joe Biden even in the room. And the PM was called upon after more than 20 countries' leaders had spoken, including Bhutan. There is little doubt the American administration was hoping for a stronger emissions announcement from Mr Morrison. But the Australian PM points out that we have delivered on our targets where other countries have not. I can reveal this morning that despite the PM not ruling out a more ambitious climate change target in the medium term ahead of the Glasgow COP26 meeting in November, a meeting he said on Friday he hopes to attend, the government has no intention of changing its 2030 target of reducing emissions by 26 to 28% from 2005 levels. It is the policy they went to the last election with. So the PM may be formally committing to a net zero target by 2050 later in the year, or a 2035 or 2040 target, but the 2030 target will not budge, government sources tell me. I can also reveal there is no plan by Labor to set a 2030 target different to the government's. Labor has committed to a net zero emissions by 2050 target, but do not plan to make any further promise ahead of Glasgow. After Glasgow, in the lead up to the election in November, they may set a 2035 target. The approach on both sides of politics on this, then, is a far cry from Bill Shorten's target at the last election of reducing emissions by 45% by 2030, which is now actually less than Joe Biden and Boris Johnson's targets. My interview with Mr Shorten later in the program, but here he has a crack at Scott Morrison for his comments this week about people in wine bars won't decide emissions policy. Plus, Mr Shorten says the PM needs to get cracking on emissions reduction now to reach net zero.
What the Prime Minister's got to realise is if you snooze, you lose. And on climate, between President Biden and America and China, everyone's moving ahead. Now, I do accept that what we need to do is that any climate policy Labor has to be anchored around the creation and maintenance of jobs. But, you know, Mr Morrison should stop shooting the messenger and start getting on with leading the country. He will do better, in my opinion, as a leader of this country, now he's won the top job, by leading the people and leading the nation, not looking over his shoulder, always trying to have some snippy little snipe at the people who don't immediately bow down and agree with everything he utters out of his mouth.